Anyway, the cotton seed that was used a lot in that era was called Stonewall. That was the name of the cotton seed. It was pretty popular, and DeKalb, DEKELB, was the corn that was most popular back in those days. And and oh, we did we did eat spam quite a bit out in the fields. I just thought about that, and we would take a burlap bag and wrap it around the water bottles and put the water in a barrel at night where we had the milk and stuff to kind of cool them. And we'd just take it out the field because that didn't last too long. By a couple, 3 hours out there, well, it already got warm, but it was still better than just hot water. But we ate quite a bit of spam sandwiches. We really did. And I mean, that was kind of a part of the deal. And one thing was we also had to cut tops, corn stalks, the corn cob, the corn itself. The shoots come out about halfway up the stalk, and that's where the corn is. And so after you pull the corn off and throw it on the trailer, then the stalks would be there, and it wasn't very good feed, but it was a try to conserve everything we could. Well, then we would come along and we'd come along and we would as the corn ripened, after it got ripe, just before we pulled the corn off the stalk, well, we'd come along with a butcher knife and cut those tops off and stack them, and then we'd take another corn cob stalk and just twist it around and twist that along. Then we'd come along with a trailer and pick those up, and we'd use that for cattle feed too, and horse feed some, because it wasn't near as good as Johnson grass hay or anything like that. It wasn't very good protein, but it was something that was better than nothing if you ran out. And speaking of making hay, we used some guys would come by and they would do this, that was part of their living. They would have these hay balers. They would come by, and they were kind of long, obviously, and you would feed this hay in there, and this mule would go in circles, and it would just keep circling around this area here, and it would run this big piston up in there, and it would keep pushing that hay in there, and then after that hay got that far, where you'd stop for a second, you would put strings around it. We used strings for a while, and then after a while they came up with baling wire, which is a lot better. And then that mule would start getting to push that hay bale out, and that was your bale of hay. And those bales of hay weigh around 50 to 70 pounds, depending on how good they were, what the ingredients were. Usually it was Johnson grass. It was a good size, good hay. And we would use that, and I guess that was probably about the hottest job that I ever. Picking cotton, bending over picking cotton was tough, and hot from the heat, and just being out in the field in the summertime. But you'd always bale hay in the summer, and it would itch, hay would itch, and I'd always wear long sleeves, and because after those bales are all laying out there, and you'd come by in a tractor or your horse and mules or whatever, and they have a flatbed trailer, and you'd have one guy on the flatbed, and you'd pick up that hay bale and kind of sling it up there, and he'd catch you with his hay hook and pull it up there, and you'd stack up a load, and he'd stack it pretty high, and kind of like a pyramid type deal, not quite, not that pointed, of course, but, and you'd, and then like I said, by then you were already hot and itchy, and it was pretty bad. But the bad part was, he'd put it in a barn, and I can't tell you, I have no idea, I have no clue how hot it was in the barn, because all the barns had tin roofs. And you would stack that hay in tiers, and you would just, tier levels, and you just keep going up to the high as the ceiling as you could, particularly if you had a good crop of hay. And I don't know how hot it was in the barn itself, but as you got higher to the ceiling where the tin was, I mean, you were right here, and that tin was right there. It was hot. When you came out, like I said, I had long sleeve on, long pants, and I came out, I'd go out, I'd find me a shade tree, and I would just, it was just like heaven, because there would be a little breeze, and you were so soaking wet, that little breeze in the shade, it was just, I can't explain it, it was just unbelievable how it was. I mean, I'm making a big deal out of it, I guess. It shouldn't be, but it really was a refreshing experience after that. And that was a very, very hot job. And the other thing, speaking about horses and a mule going in circles, well, we grew some sugar cane too. And it grows just like a cane. I mean, just like a cane. It has a few leaves on it, and it grows about 6-7 feet tall, or maybe at least that tall. And the darn leaves were kind of sharp, and you'd have to use gloves, and you'd have to strip that thing and cut it off. And boy, I'll tell you, that was great, just cutting a piece of that sugar cane and just biting into that, peeling that sugar, the outside off, and chewing on that sugar cane. Oh my gosh, that was a treat. But anyhow, there was a gentleman between Weimar and Holman. In fact, the place is still there. I think I could spot it. It was right by the side of the road. He had a molasses mill there, and that's what we made our homemade molasses out of, is coarse sugar cane. And we would take a load over there, and he had it looked like a big gearbox out of a big tractor or truck or something. It wasn't exactly that, but it looked like that. And then he had this big pan under there, and you would stick this sugar cane in there, and he would just pull it on through and grind it on through, and then all the juice would run down in this pan, and the mule would keep walking and turning those gears, keep those gears turning. And then he would have like a long built fireplace, like a barbecue pit. And so anyway, he had that, and had this fire going, and I think he had 3 vats, one here, one here, one here, and on the end vat he'd have one with a spout on it, with a spigot and spout, and he would move that molasses. I think he had different heat levels. He would kind of move that down in those pans and just keep moving it down there. And then, of course, we didn't have plastic or anything. It was always gallon glass jugs, and we always brought I don't know how many, we maybe make 10-15 gallons of sugarcane syrup. Maybe we didn't make that much, but that's about right, I think. And then at the end, it was all hot, and then we just open that spout and fill that gallon jug up. And so that's kind of the other mule story I had with the circle with the hay bales. But anyway, um, and going back to tractor driving again, well, I always remembered Uncle Fred when he got his Model A farmall with just a one row, and I got to drive that when I was down at, when we still lived on the Belly place. He let me drive that a little bit, and that was quite exciting. It was very exciting. Really, I'm gonna close right now, and I'll try to continue this later, and hope I'm not boring you to death. I just a lot of things, because I'm getting old. I just had a lot of experiences, and like I said, I grew up in great times. Things were simple, and I just grew up in great times.